let's be clear, AA is a cult religion. A very classic technique that cults do or cult religions do is lock you in at the identity level. This is strategic, it's intentional, and it gets you to lock into a system where now you're going to perpetuate the system for the rest of your life. This is about creating obedience and free labor forever for Bill's ideology. Welcome to the Sobriety Bestie podcast. My name is Kirsten. I'm your hostess today and your friend here to talk about Culty Comments. We are going to break it down so we can see some of the AA ideology inside of Culty Comments and to help the deprogramming journey that you might be on yourself. So let's go. This one, it's a response to a video I made about saying the most brainwashing line of Alcoholics Anonymous is, "Hi, I'm Kirsten, I'm an alcoholic," like saying your name like that. And so his response is, the statement, "My name is blank and I'm an alcoholic," in AA isn't about brainwashing, it's about identification, accountability, and honesty. This guy clearly is not clear on what's happening. And also, I would like to say, I think his little bestie ChatGPT wrote this. You know what I mean? Let me know in the comments if you can tell when someone's just like copy-pasting ChatGPT as if it's their response. He said, here's a breakdown of why it matters. Who says that? 1, identification, not indoctrination. Saying I'm an alcoholic helps members openly acknowledge their condition, which is a critical first step towards recovery. It's no different from someone saying, "Hi, I'm diabetic," or "Hi, I have cancer." It acknowledges reality and allows others to relate and support. Okay, so what we're assuming here is we're assuming that alcoholic is a condition. He's comparing it to diseases. And you know what? It's not actually ever been a diagnosable condition in the United States of America. Right now, currently, it's called alcohol use disorder. Yes, of course, alcohol addiction is real. Alcoholism and alcoholic are not actual legitimate medical terms. So no, it's not like that. And actually, no, it doesn't mean the same thing as alcohol use disorder. We all know when you're in AA, it generally means not just your behavior of drinking of itself, because we got those terms like dry drunk, alcoholic thinking, untreated alcoholism. All the terminology called loaded language inside AA points at that there is something actually inside you, like a monster, or maybe it's outside doing push-ups in the parking lot, your disease. That's all fantasy. That's like make-believe. It's like Santa Claus. It's an idea. It's not a truth. He's not understanding the importance of identity and how that shapes our entire lives. Sorry, I'm a little distracted. There's like a man up there that's been staring at me making this video for you, and I'm a little bit uncomfortable, but we're going to continue because this is important. Your freedom is on the line. So I'll continue. If you notice me looking up there, that's what it is. It's like, get the fuck away. Keep on moving, buddy. Don't be fucking creepy. I wonder if you can hear me. Okay, let's continue. So we're talking about identity. When we get locked in at the identity level, that's a full-blown cult tactic. That's not so we can kumbaya with people around us. That's how systems lock us in. So now we identify as I'm an alcoholic, which means that, okay, if I'm an alcoholic, that means in AA that I'm powerless over alcohol, which means I need a higher power in order to solve my problem. And my problem is solved through Bill's ideology, his 12 steps to God. So it means all this other stuff to this. Oh, by the way, it's a fatal progressive disease and it lasts forever. And you forever need a free labor for Bill's program. So it's not just identity for like a kumbaya thing or your first step towards recovery. It's your first step towards abandoning yourself, turning over your will, having no agency, no autonomy, no actual freedom, because you are outsourcing your agency, your autonomy to the group, to a higher power, to your sponsor. So no, it is not just your first step in recovery. It's your first step in losing your self-trust, honestly. Because we systematically lose our self-trust within Alcoholics Anonymous. That's the indoctrination. It's not harmless. He goes on to, or shall I say, ChatGPT goes on to, sorry, like I said, I'm distracted. Goes on number 2. AA traditions support personal freedom. You're correct about tradition 3, which states the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. Again, I think this is ChatGPT. I don't know what he's talking about. Nowhere does it require people to label themselves, but many choose to because it fosters honesty and humility, core values in recovery. There's nothing honest about identifying as something that's not an actual condition. There's nothing honest about that. Bro, you're in denial. That's like not reality. Humility. No, this is what starts the humility ritual. AA is a process of humility, beating our self-trust out of us. It is a humility ritual. This is not about humility as in like a good thing. This is as in it's eroding your self-trust. So then he says, but no one requires the label, but they choose it. No, we don't choose it. Not everybody. That might have been your experience, that you thought you were choosing it. It's called coercive control. What choice do we have when our new friends say the only way to be accepted is to get in the middle of the boat, to stick with the winners, that you're in denial? Oh, you think you're not an alcoholic? You're in denial. We're not choosing the identity. Most of us aren't. Some of us are. There's going to be exceptions to everything. There's no one way. It's not black and white. We're choosing friendship. We're choosing what we think is sobriety, a path to sobriety. We're choosing community. We're choosing to not be alone. A lot of things that we're choosing. And for most of us, it has nothing to do with wanting to choose a label of I'm an alcoholic. Most of us are very repulsed by that when we get to the rooms. I did not choose that label. I was coercively controlled through high pressure tactics on my very first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. So we have to understand how data works, right? We talked about my statistics background. You can't always prove something, you can disprove something. So you say it's about this, well, I can disprove that with my own anecdotal experience. No, it's not always a choice. Because when I got there was 200 people in the room and they stayed silent until I said it. I said, hi, my name is Kirsten. They started with me because they knew it was my first meeting. And then they waited. And the weight of those 200 eyeballs on me is what made me crack and betray myself and say I'm an alcoholic. I didn't choose that. I chose to not have a panic attack. I was at the point in my life. I was 28 days sober. I was in rehab. I was about 2 weeks off benzos. I was having anxiety attacks every day, 20 days off alcohol, right? And so I'm a hot mess in there. I chose to not have a panic attack in front of the room because my insides were boiling up with the pressure of everybody staring at me, waiting for me to say what I knew they wanted me to say. Those people didn't care about me. They cared about their ideology. If they cared about me, they would have let me say what I was going to say in my own timing. They wouldn't have pressured me and coercively controlled me into their identity. It's an identity trap because that's how you get locked in. So no, we're not choosing it. Of course, some people might say, yeah, I'm totally an alcoholic. So there's exceptions, people all over the board. And then he says 3, shared experience builds connection. When someone says I'm an alcoholic, it signals to other, I've been where you are, you're not alone. That identification is what creates a bond that makes peer recovery powerful. Okay, you're not wrong. It can be powerful when you identify with other people, but you don't have to do it at the identity level. You could share your stories, you can do it other ways. That's not why AA does it. Let's be clear, AA is a cult religion. A very classic technique that cults do or cult religions do is lock you in at the identity level. This, again, is not a kumbaya experience. This is strategic, it's intentional, and it gets you to lock into a system where now you're going to perpetuate the system for the rest of your life if you stay and obey. This is about creating obedience and free labor forever for Bill's ideology. He continues, AA isn't about forcing a label, it's about embracing a shared reality to find healing. Bro, I was forced to label. I also want to say that I didn't say it again because nobody else was that intense. I didn't say it again. And also the reason why I didn't say it again is because I didn't raise my hand and say it's my first meeting. They knew it was my first meeting. That's why they were doing the humiliation ritual on me that day, was because it was my first meeting. They're like, let's get her to say it. I know they thought they were helping me, but is that care or is that control? Did you notice I was sweating and hyperventilating and about to have a panic attack? Did you really care about me, or did you care about what you believed was best for me? Because you believe it's true. Because you believe a book from the 1930s. There's a difference. And then he says, the idea that it's brainwashing misses the point entirely and often reflects a misunderstanding of how recovery works. Bro, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Yes, it's brainwashing. Most of us, when we got there, we got in on the culture of, yay, don't we need a little brainwashing? Did you hear that when you got to AA? That, yeah, it's brainwashing, but we need a little brainwashing. So no, I don't have a misunderstanding about how recovery works. You have a misunderstanding about how cults work. I will say that there are many cult religions who have a sobriety culture, and that there are a lot of people who get sober in cult religions. So I don't disagree that a cult religion is a path for some people to get sober. I do think we should have consent, we should have informed consent, and we should know what we're getting into. We should have that explained to us. Nobody ever told me when they were joking about how they needed brainwashing, and maybe I did too, about the long-term consequences of that brainwashing and how it might be if I ever did leave the group, about what would be happening in my brain. Because when I got to AA, I was clear that it was a religious cult when I walked in the door in 2009. And when I was in AA, they brainwashed me into thinking that it's not a religion, it's spiritual, and it's not a cult. And so when I was in AA, most of the time, I didn't think of it as a religious cult. In fact, it wasn't even until this past week that I really was able to make the concrete decision that yes, AA is in fact a cult. And that was through doing a lot of research, making the playlist I made on this channel about the 8 ways AA controls your mind. I'll post that up here, the 8 ways that AA controls your mind. That's based on Robert J. Lifton's thought reform work. And then I made another playlist all about comparing AA to a 15-point cult checklist because I really wanted to make the decision for myself. I felt like I was almost there, but I wanted to look at some data and I wanted to look at some official ways that experts look at this so that I can make my own decision for myself, even though it was blaringly obvious. I think I was in a little bit of denial. That's deprogramming. It's not a cult. It's not a cult. It's funny. I actually talked to one of my sponsees this morning, my old sponsees that she's left the cult religion as well. But I sponsored her for 8 or 9 years in AA. So we had like a really strong, like a bond. We went to Akron, Ohio for Founders Day. We went to a convention in Bali together. So yeah, we had a really cool friendship. I still love her. She's great. But she was telling me that, yeah, when she first got to AA, she would journaled about it's a cult religion. I don't want a cult religion. And then when she was in there, she also was brainwashed that it's not a cult religion. And then we pop out. And at some point in our deprogramming, for some of us, we realized, oh, it is. It totally is. So if you want to see that playlist, I'll pop that up here too. It's a 4-part series about, yes, AA is a cult. If you would like my help going deeper in this work, I'll pop below my link to my deprogramming course for deprogramming from Alcoholics Anonymous. There's plenty of free information and resources in my videos on YouTube. You don't need to do the course. But if you're like me, you like to have a systemized front to back thing with worksheets, guided audio experiences, and all of that. So I'll link the course below. It's called Deprogram. And also, I'm here to really start a conversation with you. Yes, you. I'm totally curious to what you think about this. So let me know in the comments what you think about this episode right here, the Culty Comments. Did you relate? Did it bring up any memories for you? Did anything come to mind? What's your experience with this? Would love to hear from you in the comments below. And of course, I hope you're having a great day. Bye.